Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to take a look at the Transformers Shatterglass Deluxe Class Decepticon Slicer and Exo Suit. So let's quickly take a look at the packaging and the comic book, and then we'll get into the review. So of course up front we have Transformers on the side, we have Exo Suit, Decepticon Slicer, and of course a picture of Slicer on the side looking very cool with a shattered Decepticon symbol with Shatterglass, and of course an open window displaying the figure in the packaging. On the side another picture of Slicer looking very cool with a shattered Decepticon symbol, and of course Slicer transforms in 18 steps, and Exo Suit transforms in 10 steps, and of course there's some product shots of them in their robot and vehicle mode, and there is actually a picture of them combined together, and of course the pieces of Exo Suit and how he separates, and there is also a sword mode with Exo Suit. Of course he is just a straight up repaint of Fast Track. And on the final side here we do have another picture of Slicer with his really cool new blaster, and that is pretty much it for the packaging. So let's quickly take a look at the included comic book. So let me just take it right here. Hopefully you can see the whole thing. I do apologize about the glare, but of course we have Transformers Shatterglass up top, we do have Slicer with his new blasters, and we do have Exo Suit and his really cool tank coming from behind. And that is pretty much it for the packaging and comic book, so let's now get into the review. We have Slicer and Exo Suit in their vehicle modes. Let's take a look at the details. Let's start with Slicer. So I'm just going to move Exo Suit off to the side for now. So he has a really cool looking sports car vehicle mode. So starting at the very front, we have some really nice black for the front grille section, with some red probably acting as the headlights, with some nice gunmetal gray, and this really cool dagger section sticking out of the really cool windscreen or cockpit section, done this really nice transparent red plastic with this whole square here, which I think probably they were going to put a Decepticon symbol there, but they just didn't for some reason. I honestly really would have liked one there, but that is just my opinion. Moving to the side, some really nice blue and a black striping on the side with this whole section here, probably acting as the door handle. And I'm really glad all four wheels on this figure are actually not mushroom peg. I'm so glad of that, because it's such an ugly design of a wheel, and actually does roll very, very well. Of course, this is a cloth surface, so there is a little bit of grab. If you had a flat table, that would probably roll a little bit better. And there's this whole layered section going back, probably a whole vent back there looking very cool. And we actually do have this really nice fin. I do like that there is a fin in this car. I just kind of wish maybe there were some more pinups there, because it does look a little bit boring and bland for my taste. So it would be nice if there was maybe some red or gunmetal gray, or maybe they could have redid that whole dagger section to put on here. It just looks a little bit unfinished to me, but that is just my opinion. And moving to the back, we have this whole really cool engine section, and these two ports here are actually used as boosters, but also for weapon storage. So I'm really glad how they have dual uses for those ports, which is pretty cool. So you can actually plug blast pieces in there if you want to have them blast off into battle, which is super cool. So detail wise, I actually really do like it. I only have two complaints. It would be nice if they maybe put a Decepticon symbol there, and maybe some more pinups on the fin, but those are very minor critiques for this vehicle mode. That's pretty much it for Slicer. So let's now take a look at the details of Exo Suit, which is a straight up repaint, redeco of Fast Track or Black Ricci. So detail-wise, as you can see, of course, I already do have two of the accessories on there. These two blasters, which I already started with them on there because it's pretty much a main part of the tank, that's why. But overall, color-wise, they actually have some really interesting mixture of colors. This really dark red and bright pink mixture that actually looks super cool. Definitely catches the eye with this very bright pink, and some nice gunmetal gray, almost silver mixture for the cannons, which are blaster piece compatible. And we do have this whole cockpit section done in red and gray with these two turret pieces here, which actually look very, very cool. And I really say the only complaint I have about this tank is, unfortunately, all six wheels are mushroom peg and are very, very ugly. I do like the color of the gray. That actually does look very good with the dark black and red. That looks super good. Just the whole mushroom peg there with the red in there, that just looks a little bit weird in my opinion. I don't like that. We actually do have some more design in the back. This is actually the chest, so really not much kibble or areas, hollow areas sticking out. Overall, a very cute, compact little tank that I actually do quite like. And that is pretty much it for details. Let's now get down to accessories. So Exo Suit already does have two of his accessories on there. The two blasters, which of course he does come with the exact same three that came with Black Ricci and Fast Track. So the third one is the really cool blade, which can store on the ports here. So you can store it on either side. I'm going to plug it on this one, so there is a port and peg. So you just got to align that into place like that, so you can store it like that, which is a pretty cool storage for a little blade. As for Slicer, he actually does come with his same missile launcher for his shoulder, so you can store this up top like that. So there we go. And he actually does come with two brand new accessories, which do store at these ports back there. So the first one is this really cool single barreled blaster, which of course is blaster piece compatible, and overall looking pretty cool in this really nice dark transparent red plastic. And you can actually use this hinge, and you can store it on either side, really doesn't matter. And you can use this peg and the port, and plug that into place like that. And I think that looks very, very cool. As for the second one, it's more of a shotgun or a double-barreled blaster style, which actually looks pretty good. This is probably my preferred between the two. And this also folds, and it's the same sort of connection. There is a peg and a port, and this will just plug right into there like that. Just gotta line that, and there we go. And there we have all of the weapons attached, and I'm actually super glad this came with new molded weapons. That's actually really nice. They could have easily just repainted these, come with the same accessories, but they actually included 2 brand new weapons, which is super, super cool to see. And I actually really do like how they store in the back, and if you wanted to, you could actually remove the whole missile launcher, and you could store one in that port up top if you wanted to, but this is actually how it is shown in the instructions. So that's pretty much it for details and weapons. Let's now get down to mold comparisons. So I'm going to start with Exo Suit here, so I'm going to bring out his mold mate. So here he is with the original Fast Track from the Earthrise line, and here he is with the second version of the Fast Track mold, Black Ricci, which was in the Selects line. So as you can see, mold-wise in this mode right here, they are the exact same thing, exact same accessories, that same blade, and of course the same blasters up top. Really just, of course, a straight-up redeco and your own personal preference of which deck you like the most. My personal favorite has to be Black Ricci. I really do like this nice bronze or dark gold color to him. It actually looks super, super good, but that is just my opinion. Let me know between these three, which one do you like the most? Of course, in the remote mode there, again, just a straight up redeco, no mold change with the head sculpt or anything, but honestly, I'm perfectly fine with that, because I really do like this new approach with the bright pink and red mixture. It actually looks super cool next to each other. And of course, whenever Exo Suit in his robot mode, I will bring out Fast Track and Black Ricci for a robot mode comparison, but they all overall do look very cool next to each other. Let me just get a side view there of the tanks. And again, let me know which one you like the most in the comment section down below. But the overall look, very, very cool. Let me just put these off to the side. We can now get in one quick mold comparison with Slicer and his 2 other versions. So of course there was a Netflix Wheeljack, but I never got that, so I am missing one version of the mold. But here we do have Exhaust, and of course Slicer, and the original Earthrise Wheeljack. But they overall do look very cool next to each other. Of course, in this situation, they do all come with that same missile piece up top, but he actually does include 2 brand new accessories. So value-wise, actually, you get quite a bit more with this pack than the other 2 versions. And I'm not really sure what my favorite is. I'm probably torn between Exhaust and this one, because I actually really do like the whole mercenary sort of style they were going for. That mercenary symbol looks super cool, and it's kind of interesting because you can actually see on these 2 other versions, they have a symbol on that square. So I'm really wondering why this did not include a pink Decepticon symbol, kind of like Flame War. She had a pink Decepticon symbol on her chest. I think that would have looked really good on Slicer, but from a side view, as you can see, mold-wise, they are the exact same thing, but in robot mode, of course, the head sculpt is completely different. Just, of course, in the vehicle mode, they are the exact same thing, just brand new accessories. Again, between these 3, which one do you like the most? Again, I'm pretty torn, but they overall do look very cool, and they're very sleek sports car modes. But that is pretty much it for the mold comparisons. Let's now get down to transformation into the robot mode. Let's now get down to transformation, so we're going to start with Exo Suit. I already did remove all of his accessories, just to make it a little bit easier, and then we will move into Slicer. So what you're going to want to do is actually remove this entire top section like this. You can then move the arms down like that. You can then remove this whole piece from the top section, which is actually a very secure connection. I do apologize for that sudden jolt. You can then get the form, rotate this completely around to face the other way, just like that, and then you can actually do the same for the head. And there we have pretty much the entire top half fully complete like that. We can put that off to the side over here for now. Now you're going to move to the legs, so you can actually disconnect the whole foot or toe piece from this section, and you can unfold the leg like this. And how this was tabbed in is, of course, there is a tab here, and there is a slot in the bottom of the foot, and there is a tab, and there is a slot on the inside of the leg. So do the same thing for the other leg, so just unfold that, so you can then get these sections, angle them down like this. And there we go. And then what you're going to want to do is attach both pieces together. So there is a peg there, and there is a port right here. And these 2 tabs, those do not align with those. That is for a different mode. So you're just going to align all this together like that, a very secure and tight connection. And as for this piece, you're going to get this peg, and of course there is a port that's just going to plug right into place. And there we have Exo Suit in his vehicle mode. We're going to take a look at the details in just a sec. Let's now get to the transformation of Slicer. So here he is. We're just going to get these sections, angle these whole fin pieces up like that. Then what you're going to want to do is pretty much disconnect the whole arm piece on the side. Just get that out, which can be a bit of trouble. There we go. Do the same thing on the other side. Disconnect the whole arm. And then you're going to get this whole shoulder piece and you're going to disconnect it from the back. So there is actually a tab here and there is a slot right there, and that's how that was tabbed into place. Do the same thing on your side, so just disconnect that. You can then resituate the whole arm, so just rotate that like that. So then you can rotate the hand. There we go. Do the same thing, of course, with this one. I'm going to show you from the front view this time. Rotate like that, so just reposition the arms. You can then get the head, rotate this up like that, and then you can actually use the waist rotation, move this forward. You can then get this whole chest piece, and you're going to untab that from the legs, which you're just going to move this up, and of course there is a tab here and a slot on this piece right here, so that will just tab into place. You can split at the leg, move this whole section out, and this little transparent windscreen piece will just fold into the leg, move the foot up, do the same thing on the other side, so just move that windscreen piece inside the leg, move the foot up, and there we have Slicer and Exo Suit and their robot modes. Let's take a look at the details. Here we have Slicer and Exo Suit in their robot modes. Let's take a look at the details. I'm going to start with Slicer, so I'm just going to move Exo Suit off to the side for now. So Slicer, really nice bronze for the ears and the mouth guard. That actually looks super cool. Some really nice gunmetal gray under the eyes and some red for the eyes themselves, with some really nice glossy black plastic at the crest section. And the pink Decepticon symbol looks very good. I just kind of wish it was on the chest. I think that would have looked a little bit better, but that is just my opinion. With quite a bit of gray for the shoulder and forearm. And if you're wondering what these posts are, if you don't have mini Earthrise figures, they're actually for blaster pieces, so you can actually plug them in to look like Slicer was shot at or he's being blown up or something like that, which creates a pretty cool effect. And again, the transparent red plastic at the chest looks pretty good with the nice stripe of red, and the black and blue looks pretty good for the rest of the chest, with some more bronze at the crotch and some gray for the top of the leg. And if you actually zoom in, quite a bit of circuitry detailing in this area with quite a bit of blue on the sides. And I actually really do like how half of the whole dagger is on each foot. So of course, once you transform it tabs together and creates the full design, which I think is a pretty cool thing they did there. I also really do like how the wheels kind of stick out of the side of the arm. That actually looks pretty cool, how you can see bits and pieces of the car sticking out in areas. Also the back, virtually no kibble, just these whole fin pieces, which does not bother me at all. Back of the legs, really no hollowness from this area. Unfortunately, if you do look on the inner part here, there is a little bit of a hollowness, but it does not bother me that much. There is much worse figures with much more hollowness in them. So overall, a pretty solid deluxe size figure. I actually really do like the robot mode. Let's now get down to articulations. The head can move down and up. The arm, there is a hinge up and down, but that's really due to transformation. There's also swivel, so up and down, out and in. There's also a swivel at the bicep and elbow bend, wrist rotation. There's also waist rotation to a full degree. The leg can kick that far forward, that far back, a knee bend, a swivel to a very good degree. Also, of course, there is a full splits out to the side, and of course the ankle pivots to a pretty good degree. Also, if you want to, you can actually tip the toe, but that is really due to transformation. So pretty standard articulation for a deluxe size figure. If you have Wheeljack from either the Netflix line or the mainline Earthrise, or if you have Exhaust, you know exactly what to expect here. Also, another piece of articulation, if you wanted to, you can actually maneuver these little fin pieces in the back, but they actually do say in the instructions to be like that. But if you want to customize a little bit, you can actually do that. But that's pretty much it for Slicer for now. Let's now take a look at the details and articulation of Exo Suit, which is a straight up redeco, repaint of Fast Track or Black Ricci. So overall, design-wise, really like the simple head sculpt. Really nice silver for the whole visor or eyes, with some nice dark black for the main helmet section. I actually really do like all these little points and areas on the crest that actually looks super nice. Also, the Decepticon symbol I actually really like on this because it almost looks like a sticker because it's so shiny and glossy with the white outlining and the pink. It almost looks like a sticker, but it's not. So that's a pretty cool effect they created there, with some really nice glossy black plastic at the shoulder and the forearm, with this really nice eye-catching pink at the elbow, hand, and chest, with quite a bit of paneling and circuitry detailing on the chest. I also really do like how these sections are outlining in black with the red for the main color. I don't like how there's there's this post here. It is folded up. It doesn't bother me that much, but it is a little bit ugly in my opinion. If you're wondering what the post is for, is because this figure is a modulator. Of course, modulator is it separates into pieces, and you can actually attach it onto other figures, which I will be showing in this review after we take a look at these figures, both in their remote modes, and of course make some comparisons. A little bit later in the review, I will be showing all 4 modular modes of Exo Suit. There is actually 4 modular modes in the instruction booklet. Of course, you can make your own, but I'm just going to be showing the ones that Hasbro pretty much made for us. But I just kind of wish this post was a little bit more concealed or covered up, because it's a little bit ugly just seeing this post kind of sticking up on the stomach. I don't really like that. But again, it doesn't bother me that much. Also, from the front view, the wheels don't look too bad with this darker gray. It actually kind of matches the knees. But from the side view, that doesn't look too good. I kind of wish the mushroom pegs were actually painted gray. I don't mind mushroom pegs as long as they kind of match the same color as the wheel, but if the mushroom peg and the wheel is a different color, that looks pretty ugly in my opinion. Looks kind of unfinished or incomplete or kind of cheap in my opinion. But overall, design-wise, not too bad. Where you look in the back, I would say that's probably my main pet peeve of this figure. There is a bit of back cable, which I can tolerate, but I would say the main problem is this area right here. The hollowness is pretty bad. So the reason why this is hollow is, of course, for transformation, you actually fold this whole section inside there for the tank, which is understandable, but I think they could have put a panel covering this, which, of course, since this is a redeco repaint, all 3 versions of this mold have that problem. Fast Track and Black Rishi both have this hollow gap in the back of their legs. So honestly, this is just a problem with the mold and not just to this specific figure. So I think they could have easily put a panel covering that, but from the front view, again, overall looking very, very good. Let's now get down to articulation. So starting at the very top, pretty limited, really just a side to side. The arm, of course, there is a hinge up and down. Also, of course, a swivel all the way around. There is also a bicep swivel. There is also an elbow bend. There is also wrist rotation and waist rotation. There's a swivel, a knee bend to a very good degree because the whole leg is pretty much essentially hollow. There is also a swivel. The leg can kick that far forward, that far back. And of course, there is a actually a tip or a point at the foot, which this is really due to transformations. If you actually want to have some more dynamic poses, you can do that. Also, a very good ankle pivot, which is really, really nice. I'm very impressed with that. And that, I would say, is pretty much it for articulation. Very good where the leg is concerned, but unfortunately, of course, it does kind of come at a cost because the legs are very, very hollow. So I guess up to your own personal preference. If you would rather have better articulation but a little bit of gaps, it's really your own choice. But a very good looking figure. Let's now get down to the accessories of their figure. So let's start with Exo Suit, because he's actually already right here. So he does come with the same 3 accessories that came with the previous 2 versions, Black Rishi and Fast Track. So first off, the blasters can be stored, I would say, in 2 different ways. You can store them at the shoulder if you want to, which I typically don't do, but I've seen people do this before. So you can, there is a peg and there is a port at the arm or the shoulder, which you can plug into place like that. So you can have his hands a little bit more free, and you can put the blade in his hand if you want to. So he has definitely some really good firepower and weaponry. Or if you want, so you can actually get the blasters and store them in his hands, which is pretty much essentially the same connection. There is a port in the hand and a peg on the blaster itself, so it really conceals the hand, which I actually really do like the effect they created. It almost kind of looks like the blaster is really coming out of his arm, which is super cool. So you can just cover the other arm or the other hand. And for the storage for the blade, you can store it on the shoulder there, or you can store it in his hand, which I will show in just a sec. There is a port on the blade, and there is a peg on the shoulder, and that will just hide back there. And I actually kind of like how you can barely even tell there is an accessory back there, so it's sort of a hidden weapon he can use in case his blasters break or something like that. So that's a pretty cool effect. And if you wanted to see him wielding his blade, you can have this being taken off, and you can plug this in his hands. So you can actually have, one blade, one blaster, something like that, which is a pretty cool option. But I typically do have him dual wielding the blasters and having the blade on the back of his shoulder. That's just typically what I do. But you can do what you wish. it's your toy. But overall, very cool. That's pretty much it for the accessories for Exo Suit. Let's now get into the accessories of Slicer, which actually does come with quite a few. So the one that came with the other two versions, Wheeljack and Exhaust, is this whole missile section. So you can store this in his hand. Unfortunately, on my copy, it's very, very loose. As you can see, it kind of just moves around. So not sure why that is. It doesn't bother me because I'm going to store the missile launcher on his shoulder just like the other two versions. I prefer it there anyway, so not a big blow to me. Another area you can do is there is actually a MechTech port on the forearm. You can actually plug this into place. You can actually have the missile launcher on his forearm if you want to, which is, it's okay. But I typically do store this. There is a tab on the whole weapon, and there is a slot on the shoulder, and this can just store right into place just like that. And I think that looks pretty good with the red missile at the tip. I think that looks really good. As for the two brand new weapons, which don't come with the previous two versions I have, are these two brand new blasters. So they're really nice transparent red plastic, overall looking very cool. I have heard people, they're very concerned that it will crack. I haven't had any problems with it yet. Yes, it does bend at the section here. People are worried it might have stress on the blaster. I, again, have not had any problems. I'm not that concerned, but we will see over time. So you can have him hold the blasters, but there is actually, again, several different MechTech ports. There's two, one on the forearm, one on the shoulder. Again, same on the other arm. There is actually one on his back, but that's really more for Exo Suit in his modular mode, but there is actually two on the back of his legs, and this is actually an official storage for the blasters. They actually do show this in the instructions, which I actually found this, and I'm really glad I did, because I actually really do like this look. So you can get the peg or the handle of the blaster, and you can actually plug it into that port right there. And I actually really do like this look. I might be considering storing the blasters this way on my shelf. And of course, do the same for the other side. So you just use that hinge, use that handle or peg, and the port on the back of the leg, and that can just store right in there. And there we have him fully weaponized with the two blasters on the leg and, of course, the shoulder cannon. I actually think that looks pretty cool. Of course, if you don't like to, you can have him wield them in his hands the standard typical way, but honestly, I think that actually looks super cool. A very untraditional way of storing them, but I actually think it works. I think it looks pretty cool. But I will show you with him holding them in his hands, because that is the typical standard way. Let me just take him off the back of the legs like that. Just re-tab these into place, and you can plug this one in his hand here, like that, holding the big single-barreled blaster, and then of course you can have him wielding the double-barreled blaster right there, and he is definitely ready to fight some evil Autobots. That looks pretty cool in my opinion. And that is pretty much it for the robot modes and their details, articulation, and accessories. Let's now get down to some comparisons. So let's start off with some mold comparisons. Here he is with Wheeljack. And, of course, the other version, Exhaust, which Exhaust was a Selects figure in the Earthrise line. Of course, he was Shatterglass, and he was in the mainline Earthrise line. I think it was Wave 1. There is a Netflix Wheeljack that was in a Walmart exclusive. I never was really able to get it. I never really was that interested, because it's the exact same mold as this one, just with some newly added battle damage, so that was really kind of up to your own personal preference if you wanted more of a simplistic look or more of a battle damage look. So these three versions actually look very cool. So the change in mold, really, between these two, there is no change, just the newly added accessories. As you can see, the head sculpt is the same. They all three come with that really cool shoulder missile. So no change there. Between these two and Exhaust, as you can see, he has a brand new head sculpt. Which one's my favorite? I'm not really sure. I'm kind of back and forth. As of right now, I'd probably say Exhaust, but I kind of do go back and forth between these three. Let me know in the comment section down below of these three, which one do you like the most. And of course, if your favorite is the Netflix Wheeljack, please, you can include that as well. I just don't have that figure yet. I'm not sure if I ever will get it. Who knows? Maybe if I find it on sale sometime, I will get it. But overall, looking very cool. That's pretty much it for that mold comparison. Let me just take Slicer, put him off to the side for now. Let's now get a mold comparison for Exo Suit. So here he is with Black Ricci and the original Fast Track. And as you can see, excuse me, mold-wise, they are the exact same thing. Same accessories, they both store that blade on the shoulder. Same blasters, same deco, same head sculpts. Really just down to your own personal preference of which one you like the most. as of right now, my favorite probably has to be Black Ruchi. Just really like that bronze kind of gold color to him. I think it really works with that dark maroon. Unfortunately, they do all suffer from that same problem of the mushroom peg wheels. Also, of course, the gaps on the back of the legs. So that's a bit unfortunate. But from the front view, a very solid figure. A very, very solid figure. And that's pretty much it for that mold comparison. And let me just bring out his pack mates. We'll have them together like this. I'll just put them a little bit off to the side. Let's now get down to some shattered glass comparisons. So here they are with the previously reviewed Shattered Glass Flame War. And I want to thank you so much support has been on that video, the Flame War review. I put quite a bit of time on that with the pictures, really cool poses in the video. I tried my hardest to make that a really good video, so I'm so happy that you guys like that review so much. So much support, so many likes and comments, so thank you so much for all that on that review. Hopefully you enjoy this one as much as you did Flame War. But looking very cool next to each other. Of course, Wave 2 Shattered Glass figures looking pretty cool. And for one other Shattered Glass comparison, here they are with Shattered Glass Voyager Class Wave 2 Blaster. Overall look pretty cool. And that is pretty much it for comparisons. And of course, one Shattered Glass figure left in Wave 2. I'm really looking forward to Wave 3, really wondering what other figures they will be putting out. Rumored is we might get a Shattered Glass Titan class. That is actually pretty exciting. Hopefully there'll be some new bits and pieces. Hopefully it's not just a straight up redeco, because that's pretty expensive. It'll probably be about $200 for redeco. That's quite a bit, so hopefully there is a new molded piece. Maybe they'll create a brand new Titan class for Shattered Glass. That'd be pretty exciting and cool. I'd love them to do that. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the robot modes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you all of the modular modes with Exo Suit. So of course this is a modular, so he can break up into pieces and pretty much form weapons and stuff like that, and he can actually be put on other figures. In this situation he will be put on Slicer, his pack-mate. So I'm going to be showing you all 4 versions that they put in the instruction booklet, so you can create your own custom weapons. You can do pretty much whatever you want. You can mix together Exo Suit, Fast Track and Black Ruchi. You could mix those all together and create one huge weapon. But I'm just going to be showing you the actual modes they have in the comic book. Of course, I'm going to be going by the book. So there's 4 modes. I'll be showing those quickly on Slicer, very, very quickly. So let's go do that right now. Let's now get down to the first modular mode. So what you're going to want to do is take the arms, just take these, and you're actually not going to need the arms at all in this mode, but you actually do need this blade, so we can get the arms, put those off to the side for now. You're going to get this whole backpack section, take that off. You can get the whole chest section and take this off as well. You just got to wiggle this off sometimes, and you do not need this chest piece either for this mode. You're actually going to get the arms, angle these in so the wheels are touching each other or facing up like that, and then what you can do is get this section here, fold this out like that. There is 2 pegs, 2 ports, and these will just plug in together like that. There we go. And as for the last step, there is a port and 2 slots, and there is a peg and 2 tabs, and this will just tab into place. And there we have the first modular or weapon mode, which is a huge sword or staff or something, whatever you want to call it. So if this might look vaguely familiar from my previous reviews of the previous 2 versions of this mold, Fast Track and Black Ruchi, if you have those 2 versions, you know exactly what this is sort of based off on, or sort of changed by. So the previous 2 versions of this mold, they were actually made for a specific reason. If you do have Scorponok or Black Zarak, they're 2 figures that sort of are companions, whatever you want to call them. And they are Black Ruchi and Fast Track. And if you got those 2 figures, or the 2 Titan classes, you could get the modulars and turn them into a huge sword or staff, and you could put the sword in the Titan class's hands. So really the only thing different with this one is you're not using these 2 arms pieces. They actually form the whole handle for the Titan class. So really with this version, you just kind of leave them off to the side, and this is the sort of downsized version for a deluxe, not a Titan. So you can just get your figure here. I'm going to use Slicer for all 4 modular modes, and you can just plug that in his hand. Unfortunately, on my copy, his arm is too loose, so he cannot hold the weight of the giant sword. So it is not big enough, unfortunately, but it overall looks pretty cool with him like dragging it across the ground. You can imagine him just ready to hit someone with it in evil Autobots, so that's a pretty cool look there. In my opinion, I will have pictures in the intro of this review of all 4 modular modes if you're interested in seeing them. So overall, that is the first one. Let's now move on to the second, which is actually a really cool big blaster. So we're just going to separate this into quite a few pieces. Just pull this apart right there. You actually do not need the arms at all in this mode. You're going to get the whole top chest piece, and this will actually reattach right here. You can then get the head, flip this around like that, and you're going to get this piece here, fold this in, and you're actually going to get this peg, and there is a port there. Plug that into place like that, and then you're going to get the arms. There is a port there and a peg right there, and that will just plug right into place like that. You can then get the forearm or the swivel of the bicep, swivel that forward, get the other arm, do the same thing on the other side, so just plug that in, use the bicep swivel. And as for the blade, you do not need that either. Last step is to get this peg or post out, and there is the handle, and there we have the next modular or weaponized mode, which is a huge blaster, which again, unfortunately, is not, the arm is not really that strong enough to hold the weights. It's just too big. It's a little bit better than the sword, but appearance-wise, I actually really do I like the blade, I like the gun. The gun looks super cool, just unfortunately the joints are just not strong enough, but of course, since it's a modular, you can really put these weapons and blades with any figure. I just wanted to show it on Slicer because it's his packmate, so that's why. But it might be able to work on a Voyager or Leader class figure because they're much bigger figures and their joints could be quite a bit tighter and might be able to handle the weight a little bit more. But overall, a very cool looking blaster in my opinion. I think probably my favorite between the two so far is definitely the sword, but I really do like this huge blaster. You can plug some blaster pieces in there and have him just decimating the evil Decepticons, or evil Autobots, I mean. So, very cool second one. Let's now move on to the third modular mode. Let's now move on to the third modular mode. So what you're going to do is get this piece here, and there is these 2 posts and ports, and you're just going to plug this into place, and here is the first piece. Not entirely sure what it's supposed to be, but you actually attach this to the forearm, and we'll do that in just a sec. As for the next pieces, you're just going to move these sections down, and then you're going to get this piece, fold this to pretty much cover the inside of the leg. And there we have the next pieces. These are pretty much the added boots to give the figure extra height. And as for the last piece, you're going to get this piece here. This post will actually attach to the back of the figure. And you're going to get the arms. These will plug into here like that. Do the same thing, of course, for the other one. And then you're going to get the whole form, rotate this so the elbow joint is facing forward so it can bend down like this. Do the same thing on the other side, so rotate this like that. And then as for the last step, you can get the blaster, rotate this around so it is facing the correct way. And there we have all the pieces, so now we can just attach them to the figure. So as for the first part, there is a peg here and there is a port on the bottom of the figure's foot. Do the same thing on the other side, plug that in. And as for the piece, I really do not know what it's supposed to be. You just plug this in the forearm. I guess it's supposed to be some sort of blaster. It doesn't look that good, you know, because it's just kind of weirdly positioned. I really don't understand it. But as for the last step, of course, there is a big port on the back of the figure, and there is a peg here. And this is just going to plug right into place like that. And there we have the third modular mode. And of course there is just one more, which I will do in a little bit. And this is probably my least favorite. I'm not really sure what these are supposed to be. This is supposed to be the cans. I guess they just look okay. A little bit too scrawny and weird looking. Also the wheels on the feet, I guess it just adds extra heights. I would say it's my least favorite of the 4, but overall, it's just okay. It looks okay. Let me know, of course, in the comment section down below of the 4 modular modes, which one's your favorite. And of course, again, you can make your own. There's plenty of customizable options to make your own really cool weapon. But let's now move on to the 4th and final modular. Now for the fourth and final modular mode, what you're going to do is get this piece right here, split it like that, and you can then get this blade and attach it. So there is a port and 2 slots, and there is a peg and 2 tabs, and you're just going to attach it like that. And this forms a pretty cool little blade that's going to attach to the form, so we'll attach that in a little bit. Let's now move on to the main huge cannon. So you're going to get the whole chest piece and get this whole waist and leg piece, and you're actually going to attach it like this, and then you're going to flip to the back. And then what you're going to do is make sure the wheels are facing up with this, and there is a peg and a port, and that's just going to attach into place like this, and the foot will just flip forward like that. So do the same thing on the other side. So just plug this into place, flip this forward like that, and then what you're going to do is get the arms and the peg. You're going to want to have that facing out. So this will just plug right into place like that, like that. Get the hands, our forearm, this is going to move forward like this, and then you're going to move this up like that, and then you're going to want to have the forearm bend down like this, like that. Take the hands, and there we have the huge cannons, which they are ginormous. And then, of course, the last step, you're just going to get the peg, flip this out, which can be a bit of pain if you don't have a good nail. There we go. Flip that out, and this is just going to attach to the back. So we're going to get slicer here, go to the back, and there is a, of course, ports and peg. This is just going to plug onto the back just like this. And there we have the huge cannons like that, which I think is pretty cool. And actually can deal with the weight. Of course, you have to have the arms out to sort of balance it out, but honestly, it's not too bad. Actually, it really doesn't make it fall back that much. Let me just adjust the camera. There we go. And as for the last one, of course, just get the blade, attach it to the form like this, and there we have all of his weapons on him. And this is probably my favorite of all the four. Probably either this one or the really cool giant blade. Unfortunately, that blade, he really cannot hold the weights, but this one actually looks pretty cool. Of course, you got the huge cannons, the really cool blade on his forearm, which looks super cool. So not bad for the fourth modular mode. And that's pretty much it for all the modular modes of the four that are in the instructions. Let me know which one's your favorite in the comment section down below. Let's now get down to the final thoughts for the Transformer Shadow Glass, Slicer, and Exo Suit. Let's now get down to the final thoughts of the Transformer Shadow Glass Deluxe Class Slicer and Exo Suit. Let's start with Exo Suit. I think overall the tank actually looks very, very cool. Like the very bright pink, the dark black, and the gray. It looks super, super cool. Also, of course, the gunmetal gray for the blasters looks super, super cool at the front of the tank. Unfortunately, all 6 wheels are mushroom peg, which I really don't like. I wouldn't have minded if the mushroom pegs themselves were the same color as the wheel, but they're actually red and the wheels are gray, so it looks kind of ugly and really sticks out a lot. But I would say that's really my only complaint for the tank mode. Transformation-wise, actually pretty simple. You really just kind of take it apart and just stick it back together. I'd say if this is the first time that you ever experienced or ever have had this mold, the Fast Track mold, I'd say you probably need the instructions once, maybe twice. But of course, if you have experience or have this mold before, if you have the previous 2 versions, Fast Track or Black Ricci, you know exactly what to do here. Robot mode looks super cool. Really like that small Decepticon symbol on the shoulder. Almost kind of looks like a sticker. I'm not sure if that's what they were going for, but it actually looks super cool. Again, love the really bright pink and the red and the black. Looks super cool. Also, the little blade actually is super cool. You can store it on the shoulder, which is also kind of nice how it is barely noticeable, so it's sort of a secret accessory that's stored in the back. I actually kind of like that feature. Unfortunately, there is some hollow gaps behind the legs, but since this is a redeco, I really cannot blame Exo Suit as a character. It's really kind of just a mold problem. Again, the previous 2 versions of this mold had the gaps in the back of the legs, so that really was always a problem. I can easily overlook it because the front of the figure looks super cool, and again, unfortunately, if you look at the figure from a side view, you can see all those ugly mushroom pegs. Overall articulation is pretty standard, really good knee, actually a really, really good knee bend, because since the back of the leg is hollow, it can pretty much fully collapse during articulation. Everything else pretty standard for a deluxe size figure. If you have the previous two versions, you know exactly what to expect here. Getting down to, of course, the modular modes, I'm not going to say much because I wouldn't say I have any complaints. I think overall, the modular modes are pretty fun. I've never really been a huge fan of them. If you watch any of my reviews for previous modulars like Airwave, Ironworks, or even the previous two versions of this mold, I never really was a huge fan. I think it's just okay of a feature. I don't mind that they break up. I know people really hate parts rooming and stuff like that. I don't care about parts rooming or anything like that. It just seems like they've always been kind of slapped together or like a last minute thought. Never really like they tried that hard to make them good. But I do have to say, with these modes that were in the instruction booklet, there's actually 4 Hasbro designed and made for this figure. Of course, you can customize your own. I typically don't do that myself. I've never really been a huge fan. But with these 4, I would say 3 of the 4 are pretty good. Really, only one of them not as good. But again, 3 of the 4 are actually pretty cool. No, they're not perfect. They're kind of just hodgepodgey, slapped together weapons. But overall, picture-wise, they look pretty cool on display. Unfortunately, with some of them, you have to have really tight joints for the figure. Unfortunately, with my Slicer figure, the joints are tight. Just, of course, some of the weapons are really, really heavy and big and ton of pieces, and you just cannot lift them up, so that's a bit unfortunate. But overall, appearance-wise, they're actually pretty cool. Getting down to Slicer, I actually probably think this is my favorite of the 2, but I actually really do like Exhaust. I love the whole bronze of the face and ears and the whole mouth guard. That actually looks super cool, and there's some more on the legs. I like all the circuitry detailing. I also really do like the whole dagger kind of decal or design on the feet. It's actually super cool how they're split in half in the robot, but whenever you transform it, they're actually connected together, so that's a pretty cool, fun little thing. I would say the only complaints for the robot mode, I kind of wish the Decepticon symbol was not on the shoulder but on the chest, because there's a whole square right where it would be a perfect Decepticon symbol. Of course, I could just get a sticker and slap one on there. I typically don't do that, but if you're into customizing your figures, go ahead and do it. But it just seems like they would easily be able to do that. Maybe they were just kind of trying to go for a different approach, but it's at the shoulder. It doesn't bother me that much, but I think it would have looked much better there, because you could have had a bigger symbol and it would be more noticeable. But that is just my opinion. And overall, of course, transformation, the same as Wheeljack and Exhaust. Pretty simplistic. I would say minor complaints, which actually hasn't done this in a while, but when I first got the figure, when I first had it in hand, the whole front chest piece, it's only held on by a whole little friction tab, so it can easily pop off. And that's my complaint. Unfortunately, when I was transforming it and turning the waist, sometimes the whole chest piece would sometimes tab off or come on tabs. It hasn't done that in several times. I've transformed it quite a few times for this review. And off cam, so I've not had any problems recently. It really only happened once or twice when I first got in hand, so maybe I just got the hang of it and stopped. But that's really it for the robot mode. Good articulation, very standard for a deluxe size figure. Of course, you can actually point the toes, but that's really due to transformation. And he actually does look pretty cool with Exo Suit attached to him. Car mode, very sleek, very cool. Again, really do like that really nice kind of dagger design or emblem on the front of the car, and the transparent red plastic for the cockpit looks super cool as well. I would say the only complaint for the vehicle is, unfortunately, the whole back fin piece is just blue, and I like blue, the color, yes, but it's very plain and kind of seems like unfinished. Like, seems like they were going to paint it, but they like forgot to, or they just didn't have the money, like it was out of their budget. So I would have liked maybe like a stripe of black or red or something else there, maybe some of that, maybe a Decepticon symbol, something there, you know, some bronze, honestly, anything just to add a little bit more to the fin, because it just seems too plain, it's just blue, that's, you know, but that's really my only complaint. I'm really glad the wheels, that's another huge plus to this mold and this figure. They are not mushroom peg wheels. I'm really glad of that. I really wish Exhaust was the same case, but unfortunately no. So overall, a pretty good pack. I do apologize if I'm rambling on. This is actually going to be probably a very long review, because I showed all 4 modular modes, and of course both of their standard vehicle modes. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know what you think of these 2 figures in the comment section down below, of course, of these 2 figures. Which one is your favorite version of the Wheeljack mold? Of course, Slicer, Wheeljack, or Exhaust. And which one is your favorite of the Fast Track mold? Exo Suit Fast Track or Black Rishi? And of course, just again, overall in general, which one do you, what do you think of this pack in general? Will you be buying it? Do you think it's worth the price? I honestly think it's actually really worth it. 2 Luxes for about, I think it was $52, and of course some brand new accessories and a comic book. I think it's a pretty good deal. I know, of course, Deluxes have gotten pretty expensive these days, but a standard Deluxe is about $22 to $25, and that's, I would say, about a standard price for 2 Deluxes, about $50 to $55. I think it's worth it. So, hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time.